and work together to, oops, and there goes the recording in progress. So you all hopefully saw that. And so anyway, as I said, we'll have a recap and with a timeline to describe, what'll keep us together to meet the deadline. And then most of today's meeting will be spent in 6 different breakout groups, and we'll provide more details later on about that when we get closer to it. And then, of course, we'll also take some time to hear from the different breakout groups as they report out on their sessions. And so at this time, I'd just like to turn it over to Shalini, who will lead us through the next part of the agenda around the recap. So, Shalini.
Wonderful. Thanks, Roque. We're going to do this very efficiently because we want to spend most of our time today in breakout sessions to really hear from all of you. So the quick recap on what we know from the state to this point is that we are expecting to see final guidelines issued tomorrow at 10 a.m. and we'll share a link for that. What's been presented in the draft guidelines to date, there are 2 key elements that we emphasized in our early May convenings. The first are the priorities that CERF is really being shaped around, and those are in 4 main categories that include equity, sustainability, economic competitiveness and resilience. Those are together for folks who are just listening and not looking at the screen, and job quality and access. These definitions are worth looking through in the guidelines material for anyone who's interested, because the definition of sustainability for some folks might traditionally tilt environmental, and this is a broader definition that includes economic sustainability, and also a pretty broad definition of what job access looks like in terms of education, but also things like mobility. So we will be drilling down into these definitions and talking about them in the breakout discussions. But the 4 topics here are real anchors for how the state is thinking about CERF. There's also a very strong emphasis on which stakeholders must be represented inside CERF collaboratives. And so we presented this in early May as well. And you can see that there's some broad groupings of business, community, education, government and regional agencies, labor, tribes, and philanthropies. The one distinguishing feature of CERF is that government and regional agencies are not allowed to lead applications, but they are encouraged to participate in applications led by these other stakeholders. And the state is really looking for a diverse and balanced collaborative from each of the 13 regions. So since we talked in early May with many of you in those conversations and folks who have reached out in other ways by email and through the website, we've reached 220 individuals and organizations that have expressed interest in engaging at different levels in the Southern Border CERF Collaborative. And you can see here a pie chart of the breakdown of how folks have identified their sector. And this, like many things, is squishy. Community is a massive term and can encompass a lot of things, as is business. But it gives you a sense of just the general breakdown of the individuals and the types of organizations that have been participating in preliminary discussions before the RFP's release. What have folks been interested in participating around? Well, from the survey that we shared following the May 3rd and May 4th dialogues in Imperial and San Diego, we asked folks to rank a set of 6 priorities that emerged in early discussions. And the emphasis really has been on thriving communities and everything that encompasses, from affordable housing to mobility and access, on quality jobs, education, and then a basket of things on infrastructure, small business, and industry that rank below those community and quality of life priorities. You can see on the left some of the write-in responses, keywords that have come up, which give you a real flavor for how many different directions folks are approaching the CERF opportunity from, but also the fact that there's strong alignment around some key topics, community development, education, sustainability, and those keywords align nicely with what the state is looking for. So what our goal is through this collaborative process is really to create an inclusive framework in which we can approach developing a proposal in a new way for the region. That's going to take some doing. We have a tight timeline. So from today through the end of July is about 10 weeks. We have organized through feedback from folks and a number of representatives from different organizations that have indicated interest in being part of a proposal leadership group. We've created a schedule of meetings working backward from the submission due date. And the aim of this process timeline is really to create as transparent and inclusive process as possible, so everyone has visibility on how materials are being generated, where they can provide input, where they can expect to see documents and drafts and comment on them, and then create visibility on how that feedback will be incorporated. So I'm going to walk through these one by one because this is really important. Today we're on May 25th, that's meeting 1. We are still working with the draft guidelines. So we wanted to use today's meeting to really discuss values and alignment with the CERF guidelines. So we'll be creating breakout prompts and groups. And the aim of today's discussion is to, I see Bill shaking his head given what we're walking into. So everybody bear with me because we really are going to have to move fast, and moving inclusively and quickly is a challenge. They're generally competing things, right? You need time to be inclusive, but we are in a timeline that the deadline is set. And so we're going to do our best here. And so I'm going to walk through the meetings and then share some things that are going to be happening in between these meetings. So today is all about priorities, values, and alignment. The next meeting, based on what we hear today and what folks who have selected to be part of the leadership group volunteered and stepped forward, we're going to create a draft proposal outline. So this will be informed by the final guidelines, what material the proposal actually needs to contain. So think, big picture sections on the team, on the key activities. Those of you who have written proposals know there's some plain vanilla things that are going to be in there. But we're going to incorporate what we've heard from the survey results, from these discussions, and from folks who reach out directly in that outline. So on June 8th, you can all expect to see a draft proposal outline, and that meeting will be to provide feedback on the outline. What do you like? What's missing? What needs to be done differently? By June 22nd, we will have taken that feedback on the outline, and the leadership group will have created a first draft. And as part of that first draft, we're also going to work to make sure that there is a very clear and transparent process for review, input, and feedback, so that this is not a black box where a document falls out of the sky, you all send comments, and then you have no idea where the comments have gone. The aim is to make this so that in the meetings, there's a walkthrough, everyone has an opportunity to review the document, and then there's a 2-week period where folks can spend time with it, provide written feedback, schedule meetings, and really make sure it reflects your priorities and interests. Meeting 4 is all about how to integrate feedback, how to make changes, how to reconcile any conflicts that might appear between competing priorities, and work our way to a solid final draft. This is also about securing letters of support and commitment. So who will step up in the planning phase, in what ways, and how? And then by July 20th, we'll be walking through a final draft for submission, ideally on Friday, July 22nd, not in a hair on fire way on the deadline on July 25th. So if you have any questions about this, I'm going to encourage you to put comments and questions in chat. In between each of these meetings, there is a proposal leadership group. So not a leadership group for the planning phase, a proposal leadership group that is completely open to anyone who wants to participate. For those of you who already completed the survey, you will have seen a question that said, would you like to participate by being informed, by engaging in meetings like this one, or participating in the leadership group? Everyone who responded to the survey or reached out directly expressing interest in the leadership group has been added to an email list. That group is going to be meeting in the in-between weeks to do the work that you are seeing of developing an outline, of developing a draft, of creating the process for review and feedback, of integrating that feedback, and making sure that outreach continues to extend widely. So I would encourage all of you who haven't to please go ahead and complete that survey. If you are interested in participating in that proposal leadership group, it is an open door and we welcome it, and you will see a whole flood of meeting invites that are associated with that once you send your interest. So I'm going to pause there, Roque, because I'm sharing slides. I can't see the chat, so I'll lean on you to share any questions that have popped up.
Great. No, I didn't see any questions that have popped up, so I think we're good for now, but please feel free, anytime throughout to put in any questions.
Perfect. And I see that so there are some folks who have shared messages in the chat, including links to the survey and the Google Doc where notes are being taken. So again, please feel free to complete the survey, share it widely. All of the materials associated with this meeting will be shared, and you should feel free to forward everything to your network. All right, so now we're going to talk breakouts. Back to you, Roque.
Yeah, well, again, thank you all for being here. And Shalini, thank you for the recap. And as we mentioned, I mean, these next meetings are really to hear from all of you. And so what we're looking forward to doing is now going into these breakout rooms. And so you can see there's 6 breakout topics, and these topics came most of them, or some of them came from the CERF stakeholder requirements, as you can see, and you'll notice them in the previous slides that Shalini shared with us. And then the ones in italic actually came from the convenings that we've hosted a few times, and people said these were really important topics to make sure that we're included in here. And so that's how we came up with these 6 topics. And so what we're going to ask you to do is to select one of the 6 to participate in the breakout room. And each breakout room will have the 3 similar questions that you see there on the right-hand side. One is, and if you recall in some of the previous conversations, people were saying it's going to be really critical how we define this, right? How do we define equity, and how do we define, environmental sustainability and so forth? And so that's really what we want you to start out with in your conversations today, is defining the topic area, and then moving on to what can or should it look like in the CERF proposal. And that's going to really help us, as as Shalini mentioned, some folks will continue to work over the next few weeks so that we can bring an outline forward at the next meeting that we have. And so we'll ask you to do that. And then I think that's really important in all of this work is, how do we hold ourselves accountable, right? And so whether you're on the breakout group of job quality and access, or whether you're on data-driven needs assessment and so forth, how do we make sure that we're holding ourselves accountable? So that's, the rest of our time will be spent in these breakouts. You'll actually, something will probably, Karen, if I'm doing this right, something will pop up soon that will allow you to pick the breakout area that you'd be looking for. And as we mentioned, you'll be in there, for 25 minutes. We asked that it seemed like it worked really well last time, for each group to decide how they would facilitate themselves, and then ask someone in your group also to be the one that reports out. We do have some folks that we've asked to be in each one of these groups to take notes, and so they'll identify themselves as you get started. And we thought that was really important, so that you all don't have to worry about taking the notes. I know some of you will, and whatever notes you have, if you want to put them in the Google Docs or you want to share with us later, that would be great. But we do have somebody in there with that role. And so I think that's it. And then Karen will something pop up, I guess, for folks to, there you go. At the bottom, you'll see there, join a breakout room. And if you click onto that, it'll then give you the option of which one you want to go to. And if you have any questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat, and I can answer those, or we can, before you go in.
Perfect. For anyone who doesn't see a breakout pop-up, that might be those of you on Macintosh computers, please click the 3 dots on your Zoom bar where it says More, and you can see a thing that says Choose Breakout Room.
And for others of you down at the bottom, between the record and reactions, you'll see a breakout rooms opportunity there.
Did I get assigned a room, or do I just get to choose? It's Megan.
Hi, Megan. I think we had you in equity, but feel free to join any of the others.
On my way. Thanks.
All right, folks, and for anyone who's still in the main room, the instruction is to join a breakout room. There's 6 available topics. You'll either see a pop-up at the bottom of your screen to move over, or you'll have to click the More button where you can choose a breakout room.
Looking at the list there, doesn't seem like anybody's in the environmental sustainability.
Yeah, Rook, I'm waiting before joining that room to see if anyone joins. Otherwise, I'll pop into one of the others.
Yeah, I think I was in the equity and unheard voices, but I think if like Megan went in there, so
You should still go on in there.
yeah,
I'll
I
wait with
am.
Karen and wait till the list here clears.
Okay, great.
Karen, is it just the 2 of us left in the main room?
Yes, it is. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Thanks for doing such a great job getting everyone to breakouts. Since no one joined sustainability, I'm going to go to data-driven planning.
Okay, have fun.
Thank you. If anybody else joins late and you're putting them into breakouts, just maybe not that one.
Not that one. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Um, oh. Hi, Eddie. Everyone right now is in a breakout session. If you see the list of breakout rooms, you're welcome to join one.
Well, maybe I just need to talk to you.
All right.
Yeah, you look kind of lonely. You're in here by yourself.
I'm responsible for keeping these breakout rooms open and then closing them. So that's what I'm doing today.
Okay, that's your job today.
That's
So
my
who are you and what do you do?
I am the communications director at Alliance Healthcare Foundation
Okay. Wow.
in San Diego. How about you? What are you up to?
Woo. My like job is community development with Grid Alternatives, which is a nonprofit solar program.
Oh, very good.
I'm also the chair of the community advisory committee for San Diego Community Power. I'm also the executive director of a nonprofit organization called the San Diego Urban Sustainability Coalition.
Mhm.
And I am a partner in a project of a 70,000 square foot development in Southeast San Diego called the Energy Equity Campus.
Awesome.
Whew, I got tired just saying all that.
Yeah, well, it looks like you probably would want to go into our environmental sustainability breakout room, but I got to tell you, there's no one in there right now. So you're going to be a group of one.
Well, you know, sometimes I like that though, ma'am. Some of my most interesting conversations have been with myself and the other people in my head.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Oh, got someone else joining us. Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
Oh, they came in, they went out. They didn't like what they saw.
Yeah, we might have scared them.
Might have scared them.
Yeah.
So have you been to any of the other meetings regarding this CERF proposal?
Yeah, I went to one. I'm not quite, you know, I go to a whole bunch of meetings.
Yeah.
I think I was suggested that I go to this meeting by the mayor's office to be a part of whatever the grant process was going to be.
Okay. Well, that's what we're getting ready. This is the first of 5 meetings. The first phase 1 proposal is due July 22, I think, 22,
Okay.
end of July. And so this is the first of 5 meetings, 5 of these workshops every 2 weeks. The next one that we have will be going over a draft outline for a proposal because the actual official guidelines get released by the state tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
So we just have draft guidelines we're working off of right now.
Okay.
But we don't anticipate a whole lot of change. And we've really got a short 9 to 10 weeks to turn around a phase 1 proposal that's really inclusive in the process to develop it. So it's a
Right.
challenge.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
Yeah,
This whole thing is a challenge.
I know.
Life is a challenge.
I know.
As a matter of fact, when I find myself unchallenged for too long, I start questioning reality. It's like, I know there's some shit somewhere. Something's going wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it'll be all right.
Yep, we're not the only region doing this, that's for sure.
Yeah, the whole planet needs to do it.
Oh my gosh.
You know, people think that, we're trying to save the planet. No, we're trying to save us. The planet's been here 14.7 billion years. The planet's going to be all right.
It may not look the same after we're gone.
No. Stuff's going to move around a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's still going to be all right.
I think you're right. I have to keep holding on to that thought that it's going to be okay. Sometimes I look at the world and what's going on and say, oh my gosh.
Right.
What are we doing to ourselves?
That's what my executive director at Grid always says. He said, Eddie, you always say it's going to be all right. I said, that's all it is. I don't know how, I don't know when, nor do I know why, but I have to believe that it's going to be all right. Because if I don't believe it's going to be all right, well, shit, we got another problem.
Yeah, then it's like, what matters today? Nothing.
Yeah, and I live in the day.
Yes, I try to as well. Not always easy though.
No, there's a lot of stuff pulling you in different directions, either towards the past or towards the future. It's like, can I just stay in the day? Let's just, figure out today.
So do you have, with all these groups that you're in, Eddie, have you come across a process where, that's, a process to develop something in community that's really worked well from your experience?
Yeah, a couple of things. One is a climate ambassador program, which kind of reaches out to those in the community that have never really been reached out to before, and let them know that whatever's going on in their specific location is important to the planet, right? And, trying to insert some United Nations sustainability concepts into what we're doing so that people understand that what you're doing affects the world.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that the Energy Equity Campus is designed to do, is designed to do outreach, bring programs and opportunities and everything to a community of concern, because it's going to be located in a community of concern. So it's like 70,000 square feet of opportunity down there.
Wow.
So, I was talking with a friend of mine. He's a professor at Stanford University, and he was showing me a PowerPoint. And the last slide on the PowerPoint was, it was intentional, so this needs to be intentional, right? And I just thought that was so deep, right? That whatever we're getting ready to do, it must be intentional. We must intend to do something, right?
Right.
Because the inequities that are suffered in communities of concern, those were intentional also, right? And so you combat intention with intention, and the mindset that no, we this is not a we'll try to do something. This is we're going to do something, and decide which level of engagement it's going to be. Yeah, no more trying. Yeah, no more trying, man. I mean, it's like, you know, I'm in a lot of conversations about equity, right? You know, and I had to stop one Zoom I was in. Okay, tell me what equity looks like. What does it smell like? What does it taste like? How do we know we're getting close to equity?
Yeah, yeah.
And they didn't know. I said, well, I got a clue. To achieve equity, you must totally address inequity.
Aha,
That's how you achieve equity.
excellent.
So we're not, you have to look backwards to achieve equity, which is forwards,
Mhm.
right? And you have to look at the inequitable situations in totality, right? Not just, you know, a synopsis of the inequity. No, you got to delve into it.
Yeah,
And once you do that, you will find out, oh, this was intentional.
yeah,
This was done for a reason to benefit somebody else.
right.
Okay, so to achieve equity means we need to address that at the same level that it was done to them. We must provide the same resources in the same manner, if that makes any kind of sense.
Yeah, to undo at the same, in a comparable way.
Right. Because we can't even talk about equality until we address equity.
Mm-hmm.
Because equality means, you know, you get a tree, I get a tree. Okay, that's fine. But inequity says you've been getting the tree for the last 400 years.
Exactly.
You got a damn forest. All I got is this one raggedy ass palm tree that does absolutely nothing to the environment.
Right, right, right.
And so it's like, okay, well, how are we gonna address it? Well, why don't you give me a couple hundred trees?
Exactly.
Well, we got to give everybody. Well, are you trying to reach equality or equity? And so those two words they're not necessarily intertwined.
No,
Though people try to intertwine them,
yes.
right? They just have similar letters in them. That's all. But they have different ways to achieve them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
equity.
so if you don't address equity, the delta between inequity and equity remains the same. The delta between equitable outcomes and equality remains the same. So no matter what you do in equity, you will never achieve equality. That's a whole different process.
Right. Right, right.
So I told you it was good, just me and you being in here.
It's interesting. Alliance Healthcare Foundation, where I work, is a small group. We're just like, I think we're 7 staff members and 1 part-time person. And we've been, you know, for the last 3 years, this was prior to COVID and prior to George Floyd, have been on a, you know, a diversity, equity, inclusion journey.
Right.
Amongst us, as many organizations are doing. And today we had an introduction to Roxanne. You may know her if you're in the equity field much. Roxanne Kamani, I think I'm probably mispronouncing her name.
The name sounds familiar.
Yeah, she's in San Diego. She's a DEI consultant, but she focuses on helping people. My notes about this. She's about tapping into being. So tapping into how you're actually showing up and getting you to a point where you can understand yourself well enough so that you actually show up authentically.
Right.
So there's this identity construction. You know, because we've done a lot of workshops where people are just, the ratings up and down depending on, you know, your level of privileges that you've had since birth,
Right.
or ancestors or whatever. But she's way beyond that. She's more about, you know, stop doing and just be.
Right.
Which I have a hard time wrapping my mind around how that looks like in a business setting, being versus doing.
Right.
But I'm sure it's possible. Just haven't experienced it yet.
Well, did she explain how that might work?
No, because this was just an introduction. She basically talked through what she would do, and we were just a small group going through it. But we're probably gonna bring her in to have a session, probably with us and our board, so that we can bring our board along on this journey too.
Right.
You know, she talked a lot about, you know, the fact that she'd spend time on how to get out of the way of your own ego. And even recognizing all the places that ego shows up, right? It shows up
Right.
with roles, you know, like the first thing I said to you was, well, I'm a communications director at Alliance Healthcare Foundation. Okay, so it's just my role during the day. That's not really who I am.
Right.
So anyway, it was an interesting conversation.
You know, one way I keep my ego in check, because I do a lot of stuff and it's all important stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so if left to my own devices, I think I was, pretty awesome individual. But what I do is my why is my great grandchildren.
Ah, you have great grandchildren?
No, I don't. No, I got a son.
Oh,
That's
okay. All right.
But thinking that far, taking the spotlight off of me.
Yes, I get it.
And putting it on them gives me a whole different attitude in everything that I do, because it's not about me.
Correct.
Yeah. Even if I have become whoever I've become, it's so that I can do better for my great grandchildren. I got to do the best I can for them. And I have no idea who they are. I ain't never seen them before. But you know, it allows me to treat people better, and it allows me to remain humble, because it's not about me, it's about these people, and not just my great grandchildren, that whole generation.
Yes.
Right? All of them.
Sure.
All of them. They need better water, they need better air, they need a chance to survive. And I've just been blessed with these abilities to help them do that, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not about me. The buck doesn't stop with me.
Right.
It's just running through me, right? You know, somebody asked me, or Facebook asked me, I think, who would I want to talk to in history, right?
Oh, uh-huh.
And I would want to talk to whoever was the most successful, humane individual in my bloodline.
Yeah.
I don't know who that was, but I'm imagining somewhere in Africa, there was somebody like me that was just wanted to help the people.
Right.
I want to know how he did that. If he was crazy as I am, how did he work that out? You know, how do you balance who he was with who he needed to be, right? So it's you know, oftentimes we don't put spirituality into the equation.
Correct.
And not religion, but spirituality. Okay, this is more. It ain't about us.
Right.
It ain't about us. It ain't about you. It ain't about me. It's about something else.
Mm-hmm.
Something else. So that's how I, remain humble, because I realize that it can't be about me. I'm not worthy.
Yeah.
So it's not about me. It must have been some type of blessing or something. Sometimes I think it was a curse, but I think it was a blessing for the most part.
Yes, absolutely.
To do the things that I do and have the conversations that I have that actually move envelopes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I refused to be in conversations a number of years ago where we were talking about disadvantaged communities and food deserts and all those negative connotations that identify my community, right? It just irked me, right? It felt like paper cuts every time I'd hear it. And so I just raised my hand at a meeting I was in. Look, that all these terms bother me. Okay, Eddie, well, what do you want to call your community? So I put my hand down and thought for a little bit. How about communities of concern?
Yeah. Yeah.
I need to know you're concerned about my community.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you to come into my community with a feeling of benevolence,
Yeah.
like we're unhuman and we can't help ourselves. No, that's not the case.
I love that.
I want you to come into my community like you really care about how we're living. You care about all those disadvantages that we've been made to live through.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to, okay, well, we're going to give you a couple of dollars and hope you do better next time. No, I need you to be here for the long haul.
Yeah.
People are always asking, well, Eddie, what does your community want? My community is your community. You live in the city of San Diego, I live in the city of San Diego. That's our community.
Yeah.
And they asked me that question like we're aliens or something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We want the same thing you want. We're humans. First of all, we require clean air and clean water. That's a requirement.
Yeah.
That's not like a desire. That's a requirement.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So it's not like why are we debating that? Secondly, we need a couple of more trees over here because in the summer it gets kind of hot. And we become a stove over here. So anyhow, hopefully, this conversation has enlightened you a little bit.
Absolutely. And I love the communities of concern. We've been calling it communities which are under-resourced, but that still doesn't do the job, does it?
No. And that's still that's still
it puts a negative
right.
Yeah. Yep. No.
And again, I need to know it makes me feel better when you tell me you're concerned about my community and all this stuff going on over here.
Yes.
And concern, you operate from a different place in your spirit. You operate from your heart. Oh. But when you disadvantage and all those negative connotations, those are all intellectual terms to help you identify my community.
Eddie, I got to interrupt for a minute. I've been reached out for some help in one of the breakout rooms.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Hang tight. Everybody's going to be back here in 5 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. I'm getting off too.
Hey, Karen.
Hey,
I popped out a little early just because I think we're going to have to do very quick report outs. And
okay,
I'll
do you
have
want me to
jump.
close it soon, like right now?
Right now would be great, like 60-second warning right now.
Okay, we'll do it.
Thank you.
You got it.
Just because we're letting people loose at 2:30 and then starting the leadership Zoom.
Yeah, I was on a very interesting call in the waiting room with Eddie Price. Do you know Eddie Price?
Mm-mm.
He's with a whole bunch of grid sustainable energy companies, Grid Alternatives, San Diego Urban Sustainability Coalition, the Energy something or other, and he runs a nonprofit. Anyway, he's disappeared, unfortunately, when Teddy asked me to come to her room for help, and then I came back here and he's gone, and he was just a wealth of information. So I hope.
Oh man.
Again.
Yeah.
I was looking to see maybe he joined a group, but he hasn't.
Well, let's make sure to reach out separately. So if you can just connect with Teddy to make sure he gets added to the lists.
Yeah.
He had to have registered, so we'll have to look at the registrations to have gotten in.
Yeah, because he would have been the only guy in the environmental group.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that he cabined that off.
Yeah. But I told him to join another one, and he said, "No, I'd rather just talk to you." So I said, "Okay."
Well, thank you for facilitating that group all by yourself. I appreciate it.
We had a lovely conversation about equity and inclusion.
Yeah.
Well, it should close momentarily.
Perfect. I think we'll have to adjust the times going forward with these hour slots. It's hard to manage. Yeah.
So, I mean, I can just go ahead and close now.
Please do.
Okay. Oh, now they're giving 30 seconds. I thought once I said 60 seconds, so here they come.
Okay.
Yeah. Good.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We'll give folks a few minutes or 30 seconds to reassemble. All right, fantastic. Folks are filling back up into the main room here. So
we were crushing it, so it's hard to get out of there.
Yeah, so good. Everybody solved everything, so we should be in great shape going forward. We want to be really disciplined about keeping these meetings to an hour. And as I mentioned, we're going to be doing leadership, proposal leadership group touch bases after these meetings and in between weeks. And so for anyone who expressed interest in the leadership group, we'll have a half an hour right after this. But we're going to do lightning round report outs because we only have 5 minutes left in the hour that we had planned. So, Broke, do you want to take it from here and quickly tag the 6 groups?
Yeah, thank you. Welcome all back. I won't say much because really what we want to do is hear from you. And so maybe we'll just, to make it easy, I'll just call it out. If we could get a quick report out from topic number 1 on equity and unheard voices, community engagement.
Yes. The 30 seconds. I think our summary would be that community members and community-based organizations have real power to influence and change decisions, both in the full extent of the proposal and budgeting process, and that we're tracking that and looking back to it to make sure that we're accountable to that commitment.
Wow,
thank you, Megan, for modeling that. And so right away, we'll rock right into number 2, economic competitiveness and resilience.
Hi, James Sly, East County EDC. Got voluntold to do our report out. So for our definition for competitiveness, we said that was really the idea behind getting businesses here, keeping them here and helping them thrive. And resilience was to help them stay and help them weather the economic, sort of perturbations that everyone runs into operating in a small business. So that's how we defined economic competitiveness and resiliency. And when we talked about the ways that we believed, we could include in the CERF proposal, how we could link it in the CERF proposal, we called out technology, things like permitting websites or other avenues that we can use technology to make our shared region more competitive. If you look at like the city of San Diego's permitting website, right, and how much speed that's built into their approval process, we're talking about advancements like that. The second thematic element was infrastructure. So things like municipal fiber districts, transportation studies. We talked about really adding some velocity and momentum to the various transportation corridors between our two regions and obviously the Mexico and cross-border region. The last thematic element that we called out was regulatory reform. So ways that we could make some of the regulation burdens that California businesses endure a little more palatable and a little more easy to navigate. So things like CEQA and perhaps packaging some of those applications so that an individual business doesn't have to be responsible for going through the entire process. Perhaps we as a collaborative can go through certain groupings of applications or something to make it a little more streamlined and approve huge swaths of our region. The last, we barely got to this one, but how do we hold ourselves accountable? So essentially we said we would address those three thematic elements: technology, infrastructure, and regulatory reform. We'd move to doing a project inventory to see which projects fall under those purview and which ones are realistic for us to address given the amount of funding that we have. And then last is to take the tactical steps to address. So if we want to address CEQA reform, knowing that we're probably not going to change the laws, what are the tactical steps we can take here with the amount of funding available to make those burdens a little more palatable? So that's sort of our strategy through, and I guess that concludes my report out.
Thank you so much for that, James. Appreciate that. Next one, job quality and access.
Go ahead and share what we discussed in that breakout. So the definition of job quality and access, we came up with a list of things that make something a quality job. These aspects are a little bit different from Imperial Valley and San Diego County, but for the most part, they remain the same. Access, we talked a bit about, and barriers to entry when it comes to quality jobs, and have a list of things there, including onboarding, education about opportunities, education about growth within the company, and things like that. As far as what it can and should look like in the CERF proposal, there was some conversation around community benefits agreements, support for industries that are predominantly small businesses that make providing these benefits and wages more difficult. A little bit of talk around employee ownership, financial literacy, career pathway development, all being aspects of ensuring jobs are quality access. And then holding ourselves held accountable looks like a holistic report on the jobs that we are assessing, including the jobs that are indirectly impacted by the projects looked at and funded. And then advocacy for public solutions around some of the occupations that have consistent issues and challenges like childcare and some healthcare occupations.
Great. Thank you, Taylor, for that. And did we end up, Shalini, with anybody in environmental sustainability?
Nope. So
No,
we can just
okay.
jump.
Move to the data-driven needs assessment.
So we discussed the qualitative and quantitative data that we would need, where to find this, and the gaps that we know exist. We also discussed the kind of the procedural kind of how we're going to get this data, and we discussed doing a SWOT analysis earlier rather than later to really identify the gaps that we know exist. And who we talked about employer and employee needs, especially in the Imperial Valley, and the deficit that we know exists out there. And then we ended with this, how we're going to lean on the data we know exists from SANDAG and SCAG and lean into that, into the surveys that we know are already out there, and how we can kind of modify them to get the data that we need.
Great, thank you, Jeremy, for that. And then communication and outreach.
Yeah, thank you. We had a robust discussion in our breakout room, specifically around meeting the community where they're at. There are many community members that have access to both online channels, and then there are those who do not. So we really have to, as we're developing the plan for outreach, we really have to make sure that we're meeting members of the community where they're at. And as we're doing that, really coming in with an open ear and taking all feedback and concerns in, and not discriminating against one need is more is a higher priority than another. So really making sure that we're listening, creating that space where people can feel like they can express their concerns and their needs, and then using that and that feedback to really hold ourselves accountable to make sure that we're touching all of the communities and reporting that feedback in an inclusive way, in a holistic way, so we have a picture of the overall community needs.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that report. I know that, definitely obvious, not enough time here in these breakouts, but we will continue these conversations. And I know that after this, there's a proposal leadership group that's continuing to meet, and we'll talk about some of this and how we move forward and how we get some additional engagement and other opportunities around this. There were some great ideas, I know, the one I was in, about how to continue some of this work. But anyway, I'll turn it over to Shalini really quick to wrap us up.
Perfect. So I will wrap up by saying that I just put the last slide we were going to share into the chat, which is our next meeting is on June 8th from 1:30 to 2:30. There will be updates on the website. We'll make sure to share links to the Zoom recordings and slides. Please complete and share the survey as widely as you possibly can. And don't hesitate to reach out to me and Roque with any questions. So southernbordersurf.org. And if you'd like to join the leadership group, please email Teddy, T-E-D-I, at sdrpic.org. Thank you all.
And Shalini, for the continuing work after this, will people stay on this, or is there another link that you go to?
No, there's another link. So
Okay.
Everybody who expressed interest, just please move on over and we'll see you there.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.